Today we play golf.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
I never miss with the 7-iron.
A conversation with some of the most interesting innovators and entrepreneurs behind the biggest names in golf.
My friends with the golf clubs. I lived on the golf course. I lived on the driving range.
From pro talk.
You should learn something from each and every single round you play in.
To fun from on and off the green.
Why would you play golf if you don't play it for money?
Just let me put the ball in the hole.
This is Behind the Golf Brand Podcast with Paul Liberatore. Behind the Golf Brand Podcast is sponsored by On Point, the revolutionary three-dimensional domed golf ball marker. On Point provides alignment recognition as small as a degree of inaccuracy from the planned course of the putt face angle. Endorsed by Jim Furyk, U.S. Open champion and 17-time PGA Tour winner. On Point alignment technology has been proven to increase putting performance and help lower your score. Visit onpointgolf.us and be sure to use code GA10 for a 10% discount. On Point, make more putts.
What's up, guys? Paul from Golfers Authority. Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand Podcast. This week, I have a good friend of mine, a legend in the training and mental game, and also the part of the mind, I would say, or part of the brain of the new TPT shafts. TPT Golf is one of the hottest shaft brands, like literally blowing up right now. I've been really lucky to test some of their shafts. They're amazing. And I'm really excited to have Jon Sinclair on the show today to talk about his career, about how he grew up in the golf game, and then about the TPT shaft. So I'm really excited to talk about this today because, actually I think he's the first shaft company I've had on the show, even though I've worked with all the shaft companies. So it's really kind of cool because I feel like shafts they don't get the treatment they deserve in a golf club, really. They're like, everyone thinks about the head. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me. We've been trying to do this for a while.
I know, right? Like 2 months.
Yeah.
You're busy though, man. You're training, you're meeting with players. You're a busy man. I mean, I'm just excited to have you here. So where are you located?
In the DFW area, right by the airport, in a city called Euless. So it's right in between Dallas and Fort Worth, and in a city called Euless. And I'm on a golf course called Texas Star. So my building's on the back of their driving range.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So are you in your studio then right now? Looks like
I am.
That's a nice studio. I like that.
This is this is my the putting area of the second bay. And then I have on that side, we can still hit out. And then the other room over there, we have my main teaching bay and then offices on the other side. So it's cool. A nice little building that we built here. And we're thankful that the city of Euless allowed me to build this place. And I've been here for 13 years and look, probably be here until I retire. Yeah.
I love it for reals because I guess I'm in my garage, right? But it looks pretty.
It's a nice garage.
Yeah, it's called COVID garage. That's what happens. You're stuck at home. I'm like, I'm gonna finish my garage and not park in there anymore. I have a big garage, so I made half my garage into a studio and golf area. I don't have enough room for a simulator though. I don't think my wife will let me do that. I'm trying though. But I think my dream is to have a studio like what you have at a golf course and rent one out. Or I don't really know how they do that, but it's kind of how Rick Shields does it on YouTube. Like he has his own steel bay and it's that'd be sick. That'd be really cool. But yours looks nice. I was like, whoa, that's probably the nicest backgrounds I've seen of most people. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm in my office, Yeah,
this is nice. So we painted it up, and if I show you the other side right now, it's a mess. If you look,
me
at
too.
Way. I got shafts everywhere, and
you'll see bicycles and a trash can over the corner. But so, what's your first golf memory? How long have you playing? What do you remember as your first time?
Shoot, my first golf memory, think back, is I was my best friend when I was small. I don't even remember the age, but fairly small, certainly in single digits. He played golf and I didn't play golf. And there was no way I was going to let him play golf and then me not play golf. So I remember he belonged to a club there in Dallas. We called it Glen Lakes. And so I got to start playing there at Glen Lakes. And that was lucky enough, that's where Trevino was at the time. And
really? Holy!
So we got to watch him a lot, and really the relationship from there is still to this day. You know, I still, see him occasionally and get to talk to him. And
Really? He still plays over there?
No, well, Glen Lakes is gone now, but I see him at different places that I go. He still bounces around here in Dallas at different clubs. I'll run into him, and he's out at Palm Springs a lot. So I go out there quite often, and I'll run into him out there, or some places, just different places. And we still chat even to this day. He's still very giving of his time when I see him, just to chat with him for a little bit. And so he's always just been awesome. So that's, he's the first golf memory of a pro of me watching hit balls.
Like a real pro. Like,
right. Right. And he didn't mind if we sat there and watched him. And unlike some, but you can just sit back there and watch him.
Such a different time, right? Like,
oh, yes.
Like, I wish it was like that now. Now it's like you have handlers. It's a business now. And before.
Yeah, it's this big bubble, they keep you at bay, which, and I understand being, a tour coach too, is you got to keep all that back from the player just for the distraction. Used to now with the day and all the different social media, the time demand is really huge on these players. So
they're always
pretty
on
much
camera.
has to be that
they're
way.
always on camera, right? Like
always, right?
It wasn't like that 20 years ago.
No, they could escape.
Even if people were there watching them, they weren't recording them. It wasn't going to be live and be like, oh, so-and-so is doing a bad job with the range today, and everyone.
That's right.
They'd just be like, no one knew, but maybe some kids watching them.
Yeah, I think he touched that ball. I know he touched that ball. That ball moved. Maybe one dimple or something. Like, oh my.
So, did you like play in high school and then in college and like did the whole thing, or
I played in high school.
Yeah,
Berkner High. Graduated 83, I think. The dates me pretty good, and didn't really care much for college. I was more of an outdoors guy, so I had a chance. I could have played at a couple places and just turned it down, and really just wanted to go work. So, and I wanted to be a professional golfer, and the way I could do that was go earn money and work, and then
play.
And then I could go play. So I became like an electrician and HVAC license, a plumbing license.
Really?
Yeah. So about, when I was 20, I was an electrician. So I worked for a company and then met my wife and got married and woke up one day and I said, it's time to go play golf. And that was in 1991 or something like that. I think that was, and 92 maybe. And started playing professional golf and learned a lot about clubs and stuff like that. And I remember I wake up in 2000 and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick of traveling and going to all these places and seeing golf courses. So one of my goals was to, see all the states in the USA and to go to all the different continents. So we set out on that little trek. And so I've been to all the 50 states now, and I've seen things instead of just playing golf in these places. And, here in Texas, we got great golf courses. So if I want to go play golf, I can play golf here. And then I'm at one of the best golf courses in Texas now. So as far as the public facilities, so, I can go play here. Even when I'm on the road now, people, oh, right, you went to Augusta, or you went to here, you went to there. And I'm like, yeah, I was on the driving range. There's grass, it's a tree.
Yeah,
that's
you're
really
not there. You're not on vacation. Yeah, it's not like you're. Yeah, because you're.
I go to cool places. Yeah, I go down to. I visit my buddy Jeff Leisman a lot in Florida, and he's at this great golf course, Dive Preserve, and I think I've been on the actual course like one time, the front nine or something, and the rest of. And we've known each other for 12 years or 13 years. I've been working together with him, and most of the time I just see his driving range, and then I fly home. So that's not fun. I want to go, look at the places, see the different things, and now
experience
I think, I've got 2 continents left, and
Antarctica?
my wife only has the one. Antarctica is one of them. We're trying to plan that one out, and then Australia. She's been to Australia. I haven't.
I love Australia.
So
you were an electrician, and then were you playing just for fun, or were you doing pro-am stuff, or were you doing? Amateur.
Oh, when I was working, I was certainly, I was still playing and playing amateur stuff. And, I always loved golf. That's what I wanted to do. So I just had to,
but you had to provide for the family and make money. And I
had to make enough money to to actually do it on my own. I didn't want a sponsor or anything like that. So, just saved and saved and saved. And as soon as I got fully vested in the company that I was working for, I said, well, see ya. It's time to go. And cashed it out. And, we just went and played golf. Then when I quit playing, we built a driving range here in Cleburne, Texas. And real 10 cup kind of a thing. And
you really built a driving range?
Yeah. We bought some land there.
So you and your wife, or you and your partners, or what?
No, just me and my wife. And at the time, my dad was still alive. And so I said, well, would you come and help us? And he was just kind of retired and messing around. And that's the sad part about it. We built it. And then just when we opened it, he passed away. And so all that fell on us. So we had to do everything for 7 years and teach and pick the balls. And we sold tons of clubs out of this literally it was a 12 by 12 shack. I mean, 10 cups place was pretty nice compared to what we were dealing with. I probably had better grass than he did, but he had a nicer building. But that's
so it's you're like a tough shed. You're like doing literally.
Yeah, it was like a little barn shed.
Did you have AC in there or no?
Oh yeah. We had we at least
or swamp cooler.
AC. Yeah, little window unit that we had in there. And I remember
it's hot in Texas.
Yeah, very hot.
Yeah.
The Callaway rep, I remember the first time, and we've become great friends to this day, but he came by to close me down. And he pulls up to the little shed. This little white building. And he's like, Callaway can't be in here. This is ridiculous. And he walks in and we got like $40,000 worth of inventory. And he looks at the sales and he's like going, holy cow. And so we've been friends every time because we were selling the crap out of golf clubs there.
Why? So, why do you think that is?
Maybe I was good at it.
You're honest. Yeah, you're a straight shooter, and you're recommending stuff that actually work for people and not.
Yeah, and I was willing to. We invested in the demos. Back then you had glued in heads, so I might have 15 drivers of one brand with different shafts in it to try and really do the fittings the way I felt was proper. And I would go down and learn. And the time when I was playing golf, I would go in the vans to the club builders and talk to them and try to figure stuff out. So I was always interested in learning and figuring this stuff out. And that just led me down that road to fitting. And I could see as I started teaching that if that club's not right, why do I want to fight it as a coach? And I still have that to this day. Somebody comes in here for lessons. If the club's not right, we're going to get you a new club, or I'm not going to teach, because I'm not going to sit here and teach you a swing that would be good with a club that doesn't work, for that swing. We feel like, and my friend Colin Swatton, who's Jason Day's coach forever, he says that, I need you to have a race car to drive on the NASCAR track. You're not going to win in a VW. So at least let's have a finely tuned car that you can drive and use your skills, to win. So the old adage of, tour pros can hit anything just doesn't, it's not right. They'll figure stuff out. They'll get it around the golf course, but they're, that engine's missing a few cylinders. But when you can get them the proper club and the proper shaft and the proper putter and the proper everything, then that's when that at least the car is good. Now, if you go drive, then we can work more on the little nuances of the swing or their mental capacity to get through 4 rounds and win a golf tournament.
So you quit the HVAC company, or you retired from whatever?
Well, it was all one company I was working for.
Yeah,
it was a catering company, and still love them to this day. It was called Industrial Catering. We had like 500 trucks.
Oh my God.
So there was 5 of us in the maintenance idea, and there was a carpenter there. I was electrician. There's HVAC guys, welders and stuff like that. And we all worked as a team, and we build these places, build the boxes that you see driving around to all the industrial plants. And it was like self-contained. So we really got a chance to learn all kinds of stuff. And then if we just wanted to build something, we'd just make it up. So we had a full machine shop, and it was like probably one of the best places for anybody to ever work as a young person, to go in there and have
learn.
The freedom to learn and make mistakes. Yeah. And, when you screwed
mentorship, especially in that world. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you learn.
Right. And we worked our rear ends off, and I learned a ton. And I learned a ton from the other guys I was working with, and hopefully they learned a little something from me. And, that I studied a lot, going to school at night for being an electrician. I didn't want to go to college. That's funny. And then I'm probably one of the most educated people outside of college of different trades. And, they get into shafts. I like to learn what I want to learn, not necessarily what somebody tells me they need.
I think college is overrated, man. I'm being straight. Like, I went to college. I went to law school. I had a conversation with somebody. I'm like, if I was 20 years younger, I would be like, I wouldn't have done any of that crap. Like, you learn by doing. College just gives you opportunity. That's it, right? It just opens a door. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Well, I think that's probably true. I mean, having that degree helps. Not having a degree sometimes, keeps me from being to go do something, but probably something I don't want to do anyway. But
no, you don't want to do it.
but certainly just being able to have learned all different kinds of trades and going.
I love it.
I think it gives me pretty balanced, and unfortunately, it also means that I'm the guy that's got to always fix the lights. I can't just call anybody. And
that's me. So like I went to college, and I used to be a pilot, right? But I was like, if I want to be a pilot, I need to know how to be an airplane mechanic too, because something breaks. I want to know what's happening and how to fix it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So like when I graduated college, I ended up getting my mechanics rating for being an airplane mechanic. So I'm the same way. Like I'm a nerd. I want to learn stuff. I want to know how things work. So that's just like me.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to tear apart your TV and check it out. I would definitely do that. I'm not afraid to do it.
I'm afraid to put it back together.
Well, I like the putting back together part.
That's the hard part. Because like, where's
got to see if it can make it work. Yeah. See if it can make it work.
What my favorite YouTube channel is? I just found this guy. I think it's interesting. I don't watch a lot of YouTube, but like I have been lately. This guy will take like old electronics and he'll like refurbish the old electronics. It's like a 30-minute video, like an old Nintendo or and it's like, it looks brand new when it's done. And I'm like, holy crap. And he gets millions of views. I'm like, yeah, because every person out there is like, that's what I wish I could just go do. Like he'll break it down to all the components and clean them. And like, I don't know. It's just really, it's interesting. He's some German guy or something. I don't really know, but that's so cool. You had your own driving range. Did you sell it or what happened to it?
Yeah, we sold the property and they were going to turn it into something. I don't even know. I haven't been back there.
Probably houses.
Yeah. I don't know if they were going to put little cabins and stuff on there because we had a nice little pond. We had 52 acres and they put some horses on there and they did some different things, but I hardly ever drive by there. So I don't even know what they actually ended up doing. But so, yeah. And then, they had some oil and gas. So we kept the minerals, thank goodness on that. So they put a gas well on it.
Are you getting paid on that still? The oil and gas?
Oh, no, that's all that gets shut down pretty quick. That's a pretty quick, it was nice to get it.
For like a couple years, if that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's gone. And then
the biggest pain in the ass is, I'll tell you right now, like, cause I do a lot of like trusted estate stuff and I'll have these clients that pass away and I've all these mineral and gas rights in like Oklahoma or Texas. That's like the biggest pain in the ass to get that retitled. Like, because it's like a 1/1,000,000th share, of an underground right. And they make like $14 a year and it's going to cost them like $5,000 for us to get that thing transferred. I'm like, just let it go, but they can find more oil and gas or something. Like, no, it's tapped out. Like, just deal with it. Like, it's okay. It's not even worth trying to get. So then when did you really start getting into the mental game? Or is that something that you
that happened when I was playing and met Dr. Graham and John Stabler, 1997. And they were actually, I did better in my last 3 years of playing professional, made more money than I ever did in the first 4 years.
Shut up. For real?
Yeah. Yeah. Because she, and John helped me understand. I mean, here I was a really good ball striker. I would hit it great and then, make 8 birdies and shoot even par. And, good. That's great if you want to gamble, but that's not so good if you want to win tournaments. And so they taught me how to think better, how to control my emotions better, and just what do champions actually do? What is their
Tiger,
thought process?
Right? Like Tiger shuts it all out. Like,
and they actually have a system that you can be tested in a simple personality profile. You've probably taken something similar. And she earned her doctorate and wrote her thesis on this study. and that's how she earned her doctorate. And it was on golf. And so she
Like
tested me, and I got really interested.
Yeah, like the most mental game there ever been made, right? Like the promotion. I mean, I can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, she found 8 traits that the champions hit in the 95th percentile. So 8 personality traits that all these champions on tour had. And they were thinking a certain way that was different than your average PGA Tour player. The comparison was done only on tour players. And she started on the LPGA, and then 88 and 89 went to the senior PGA and the PGA, and the results were the same. So it didn't matter if you were male or female. The thought process remained the same. And so I got super interested in that. And when I decided to teach, the first thing I wanted to do is become an instructor. And so I still laugh because I say I'm their apprentice now of, what is it now? 20, whatever. I don't even know what year it is. 21. So 24 years now. I'm still learning from them. I'm one of their master instructors. I think there's 3 of us in the world that have reached that level. And so that's kind of how I got involved in the mental game. And I think I'm a mental game coach first, and then I'm a technical coach second, although most people know me because I have this huge database of professional players in my 3D AMM system. So I've been looking at, 3-dimensional swing stuff since, I guess, 2007-ish, when we did the beta testing for the AMM with Dr. Phil Cheatham. So it's kind of just been a transfer over to, most of the people knew me from 3D when I was always a mental coach first.
Don't you have a course, like a mental game course?
Yeah, we put players through it. We call it it's a level 1 school where a player would come in on a Friday night and they'd stay the weekend, and it's about 14 hours. I don't have time to do those so much anymore. But when Jon and I were working on these schools, we wanted to be able to coach it and teach it very similarly. We obviously both have our different styles, and I come from a playing background and he's from the business and the psychological background of it. So that part, we have our own styles, but I can easily send my players down to San Antonio, Bernie, Texas, and know that that's going to be good. And when they come back up here, they're ready to go. And so I just don't have enough time to do it.
Only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, and the weekend that
what's that course you have on your website though, like the Jon Sinclair website? Is that like the mental game? Like they did like a video course or something?
I have a wrist angle video. No, that the one on my actual website's a wrist angle video, and then yes, the mental course would be on there as well, and it's still advertised on there. But usually, if you call me, I'll say, look, Jon has one every month. If I put it together, we got to find 6 people and go through it. And I really don't have, I don't have any weekends off until Christmas. Think right now it's September. Yeah, is the next time I have a weekday and that'll be full before we get to September. So,
because you're meeting with guys and gals that are trying to either on the tour or Korn Ferry or Symetra or LPGA, like you're meeting with, like you're busy as hell. Right. Like,
and then you
got TPT on top of it.
TPT, on top of all that, I do all the beta testing for them and all that. So, but I have handicap guys in here from, 30 handicap ladies to guys down to scratch amateurs too. I'm not just a tour coach. It's probably fairly equal, to be honest, the pros to the amateurs. So it's probably a 50-50 split. But I enjoy it. I had a guy in here yesterday that, broke 70 or not broke 70, broke 80 for the first time, shot in the 70s. And he's 65 years old. Yeah. And that's
a lifelong goal, right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
That was a huge deal for him. And, I have one of my players win the Korn Ferry Tour last week, and both of them were just as excited. So it's just as cool, that he shot his, 78 that one day of his life, and he's learning.
I'd be so happy.
Yeah. And then of course, on a bigger scale, then earning your PGA Tour card is a pretty big deal, right? So those types of things. But if you put the players, their emotional feelings that they have from succeeding on this goal is probably exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
And the gratification
of
that
you
get
yeah. Of the coach, right? Like
it's pretty it's gratifying on both sides.
You did a good job.
One you might get a little notoriety for, and the other one nobody will ever know. But it feels good.
It feels the same way, but both.
Right.
Because you
right.
it's like a teacher, right? You're a teacher at heart. And it's like, when somebody achieves their goal or learns something new, that's huge, right? I mean, so tell me about the 3D stuff. Like when you started it, what's it called? AMA system? AMM. Yeah.
Advanced motion measurement. Yeah. That's still, in my opinion, the gold standard in 3D collection. There's some other things out there now, but I got involved in that. It's a pretty simple thing. I started the driving range, like we talked about. Yeah. And I was the guy that would go in there. I don't need cameras. I don't need this. I can see all this stuff with my eyes. And I was teaching people. And the truth is, and teaching some stuff, probably terrible information, but your passion, and I still tell this to young teachers today, if you believe in your ability and you have passion, the clients are going to get better. They're going to feed off of that. So if you're wrong, sometimes it's okay. Placebos work anyway. So especially in golf. So as you're learning, I just didn't feel like I needed that. And then I was at Jim McLean's when he built this place in Texas for a little while and got introduced to cameras for the first time. I was like, well, that makes kind of life easier. And then I started looking at these 2-dimensional cameras. I go, golly, that's just, I don't see the golf swing that way. And I thought, am I wrong? And I started getting confused. It's like, because it doesn't look like what I see. When I look at look at your face right now, that doesn't look like what I truly see in my mind and different things. And then I was introduced to a gentleman there at the McLean Center called Dr. Rob Neal. And he's a 3D specialist. And at that time, we used his system that was a snap-align system. So what that means is when you measure something out, you stand still and you're supposed to stand at attention and you hit the button and it zeroes everything out, right? So I didn't really understand that at the moment. And I'd collected quite a bit of data on that machine. And one day I'm sitting there and I had some ladies in there and I could see on the screen, I could see her reflection. And as I hit the 0 button, she was standing funny. And all of a sudden I saw on the screen, she zeroed out. And I was like, uh-oh, how many times did that happen? Where now her body's, the only way she could look good on the screen is to stand weird. So, that one bothered me. Do you understand kind of what I'm saying? It's if I have my arm like that and I hit the 0 button, the screen looks like that. And when my arm looks like that.
Yeah.
So
that's all right.
And it was just like, all right, I didn't investigate this enough. And, Dr. Rob Neal is one of the smartest, doctors out there in biomechanics. And so I started investigating, and he then started changing to what we call digitizing. And he only does the upper body. He doesn't do the legs. And I kept pushing. I want to see the legs. I want to see the whole body. The legs are only 20%, but that's a big 20% in my opinion.
A lot of muscle in there too.
And somehow or another, I think maybe he directed me, or I don't even remember how it happened, but I got introduced to Phil Cheatham, who's now Dr. Phil Cheatham. And so I went out there to see him, and he does the whole body, same system that Dr. Neal had, except he would do the whole body. And I started really investigating on how these things work. So we go back to the original thing. I'm going to start tearing apart this machine until I figure out how it works. Now that I've seen that something wasn't exactly right, the 2-dimensional camera, then I saw the snap-align system not exactly right. I was going to make sure that the next time I had it as right as I could get it. And he was doing a beta testing. So I was all in. I'm like, okay. And he gives me this AMM machine, which I bought. And I'm now all into technology. At this point, I went from I don't want to do anything to the 3D system was the way that I would see the golf swing. It wasn't 2D, it was 3D. I was seeing in 3D, and I'm trying to look at a 2-dimensional, thing. And I see all these, YouTube things at that time, or books, and they're going through all this stuff. And I said, man, that swing doesn't do that. There's no way that's right. And
that's how it looks.
Right. And so I went out there and I actually bought a AMM system 3D.
What
I
that
bought
cost?
a TrackMan.
Oh,
Back then I think it was
$1 billion.
Yeah, no, it was I can only remember 20, maybe 30,000, 25,
Yeah, but
30,000.
even like
something
TrackMan back then was like
I think TrackMan, I remember that one, 27,000 when I bought my first one. So I bought all this in a week and a Sam putt lab.
And your wife's
I
like,
traveled around.
What?
Yeah, so I just went crazy. My wife's going, whoa, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to learn. So I just went
What
out
year
and
was
got
this?
Got
like 2000, what, 4 or 5?
No, it's maybe 6.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure. Somewhere around plus or minus on the 6, I think, 2006. And but Phil showed me how to do it and pretty much said, hey, go capture some players and let me know. And so you have all these graphs and you're looking at all this stuff and I don't even know what the heck I'm looking at. And I'm running the avatar, right? I'm just running the avatar, but basically I'm tearing apart the machine and I'm asking questions. Well, how does that sensor work? Where's the information come from? Why is this better? Why is this worse? And so I just started.
You asked the right questions, right?
Right.
And you found the solution too, as part of it.
And so to this day, if I buy technology, it drives them nuts because I want to know how it works before I buy it. Because I've been duped so many times on stuff that ends up not really working.
Yeah.
And so, I make people mad, because I'm like, no, you need to tell me how it works or I'm not interested.
Don't give me the sales pitch on how it works. I want to know. I want
to know how it works. And I'm okay with errors as long as I know them. If I can live with them, fine. If I can't, I'm not going to use the product. So, everything has some amount of error to it because nothing's perfect. So we just got to get it as best that we can. And so all that's how I got into 3D. I met Jeff Banisak, who's out on tour as a physio. He's a PT, and I started capturing all of his tour players. So that's how it started. So I was working with different coaches and PTs capturing their players to get the data to see how we could help them both with their swing and medically. And
it helps
that's
them
how it
too,
all
right?
started.
Because they don't ever have this done. This is like high tech stuff, right? So they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll do it. Like if it helps.
Yeah, and then after a while, I remember one player that I'd captured for probably 12 years. He goes, I remember when I used to look forward to seeing you, and now I just hate it because I got to, get all wired up and do all this stuff, and it becomes a bother. Especially when they made tons of money and their time constraints, or it gets tougher and tougher. And everybody thinks, you do somebody on 3D every day. I've had, amateurs come in here. I thought you were going to put me on the 3D. I said, are you kidding? I only do that like once a year, unless there's injuries or something that we just can't see and there's a problem, we put them back on it. But we want to capture you once a year, see where we're at, usually in the off season. And that's how we do it. But people think you go jump in there and you're in 3D every time you take a lesson. Well, that's crazy. Well, number one, I'm a mental coach. And the last thing I need you thinking about is all this mechanics when you're hitting it. And then that gets pretty technical when we're measuring 220 parameters of the body at 240 frames a second. That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
It takes me, and I'm slower than some others, I'm sure. But it takes me about 3 hours to go through a data collection, so I've still got 2 sitting on my desk right now that I collected over a month ago, and I'm sure they're waiting on me, and I hate that. But I make sure I go through every part of the swing before I give my opinion.
It's unbelievable. So what tour players have you done?
I don't ever talk about that. That's up to
all the big ones. All the big ones.
I've got one of the best databases in the world for sure. I know that I have the strongest one, but I don't. If the player wants to say they're here, I know I've been referred to on the TV. We laugh all the time.
Really?
He gets his data collected somewhere in Texas. So my wife and I thought we were just going to put a big sign out.
You should do that out front. Somewhere in Texas.
Right. But, I keep all that stuff private. I don't, even when I do my seminars or I go speak and I show the data.
Yeah, you're not trying to name drop like, oh, yeah.
No, and I think, if somebody wants to sit there and say, hey, I did this with Jon and this is what we're working on, that's fine. But I don't really like to do that. I think that's privacy of the player. And maybe that's because that's the way I would have felt. I've seen some players that get their 3D data out there, let's say on a YouTube, right? And
I feel violated if I was a tour player.
well, I mean, they get dissected because, I mean, you can't find a swing that you can't find problems with, but they get so dissected. You know, the one that can really handle it, and I can say his name because he won't care, is Grant Waite. You know, we went to Dr. Kwan's. We did the data here. He's released it to the teachers for learning purposes, which is awesome on his part because he has a great golf swing and all that. But at the same time, he's got the most dissected swing of any pro I've ever seen. And it's not always good. So, you know, I don't need the player hearing a bunch of stuff. I don't need, you know, if I'm the coach, I don't want all that stuff out, you know, floating around of this is my player. And then in this day and time on the YouTube, all you get is criticize more than you get, oh, he's doing a good job.
Everyone has an opinion, right? Everyone has an opinion. Everybody knows everything. And
it cracks me up. Yeah. Well, we're working with a player and then we hear all this stuff that, oh, I could fix this or that with this player. It's pretty funny because they have no idea. They actually have no clue.
I get that
because they don't have all the information.
People be like, oh, I could do that or blah, blah. And it's like, I don't see you doing it. Right. Like
yeah.
I'll talk, you know, it doesn't even bother me anymore. Like there's two types of people. There's people going to hate it or there's people that are just trying to get attention by saying it, you know, and it's like, I don't have time for that, whatever.
Yeah. It's just the way it goes now. And so I do try to protect that.
So when did you start working with TPT then?
I believe now it's 5 years ago.
Did they come to you or how that happened?
Yeah, I have another biomechanist that I work with in France, Jacques Rivet, and we would always meet at the PGA show and just have a 3D. We'd always say meet.
Yeah, your
3D
buddies. Yeah,
we'd do too much. You know, we would work together on some of the French players and stuff like that. They were over here in the States. And so we would have Zoom meetings all the time. And then we would meet each other in 3D. We would say, once a year at the PGA show. Well, he said, hey, come meet me at the Rosen across from the PGA show. And I said, okay, you know, so I went over there and he leads me down this hallway, sits me down at these chairs with, you know, these guys and said, we don't need to talk this year. Tapped me on the shoulder and he left. He goes, you need to see them. And I never even saw it. He took off. So I had no idea what they were even there for, but we had discussions with shafts. He knew how disgusted that I was at that moment with shafts and how, you know, I'd had a player that shaft broke and, you know, he played it and we knew it wasn't his swing and we couldn't find that fit again. Like everybody out there that might be watching this knows they've been to a fitting, they've hit the driver great, and then they get the actual club and it doesn't feel the same. And it just doesn't
happen all the time. Yeah. I mean, I bet.
Yeah. And so that was something that was bugging me. And I was starting to investigate the shafts and these guys were sitting in front of me and they said, hey, we're making golf shafts. And I'm very skeptical. I have to admit, I was extremely skeptical. And they said, well, we can make this shaft and repeat it and it can feel the same every single time. And I won't say the word, but it was BS. And I got up and I started to walk away and the CEO of the company stopped me and said, no, we can really, really do it. And so I was like, all right, I'll listen. So after our meeting, I came home and I went and bought these two machines that, you know, I got one, you can measure every centimeter of the shaft, the hoop deformation, everything. And there's only 3 of them in the world and I have 2 of them. And so I took some gamer shafts from some PGA Tour players and I measured them and I took the other machine and sent it to Switzerland. And so I could give them the measurements. They could then make a shaft, measure it to be sure that it was the same, and then send it back. Well, we did 5 or 6, I think, PGA Tour players. And when I brought the shafts in with the TrackMan on, the player hitting it, they couldn't tell the difference in their gamer and the shaft that TPT had made.
Holy crap.
So I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, pretty much,
that
right?
Works.
Like ever. Yeah.
Right. And so they asked me, they said, well, you know, are they going to play them? And I said, well, no, that was a backup, but thank you. You know, now we have a backup. That was the whole problem is now we have a backup. Now we can make the as long as the driver head doesn't crack, you know, we can actually put a shaft in there and it feels just like your gamer. And I said, until they're better, I mean, they got to be better.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, would you help us? And so I started flying back and forth from Switzerland and we developed the first TPT shafts, and they came out straighter. They came out at the time with the Blue Range. They were actually sometimes a little faster. I'm still not 100% sure why that happened. Possibly because the club's not moving around and wobbling all over the place, and the player just can swing it faster. But we saw that. And so we've now developed it into what's called the Red Range. And that's the one that's out right now to the public and out on tour. And then we won lots of golf tournaments. I think now over 30 worldwide in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, and 3 this last weekend, players playing that, at least in their driver. And so that was kind of how it started. And then as it developed, then I started, kind of helping design the shaft, and they're using my knowledge in the golf business and their great engineers that they have, because these are Swiss people. I mean, people don't even realize TPT,
perfection. Yeah.
North Ply Technology, they wanted to win the America's Cup, and they got with Oracle, and they got sales mass, and they won the America's Cup. So this is a big company, and they do, you drive a Porsche and you see the graphite inlays on the car. That's it. Formula One race cars, the boats, the flying ships, the sails, the mast that's dead straight, that goes straight up there for 50 feet. So they're not, this is a serious company. And I think Francois is the CEO, and he told me one time, well, it was either fishing rods or golf shafts. And so they chose, I can't remember exactly why they chose golf shafts, but thankful for us that they did. And so I just went back and forth, and we developed this product. And I don't work for TPT, even though I designed the shafts. Obviously, I have some bias towards that. But for my players, especially my tour players that have to make money, I mean, they're going to play the best shaft that they can. Whatever goes longest, straightest, I don't care if it's a TPT or it's not a TPT. I still have that philosophy, and I will try anything with them. If it's better, it's better. And I had a discussion with a Corn Ferry player, and he goes, well, I hadn't put my TPT shaft in yet. And I said, that's fine. I said, only if it's better. Only if it's better. And that's how we want it to be. And so I've quit fitting other shafts. I might buy some for the player or something like that to see if something's better, but it's just better. The way it's made, no other company can make them like that. It's wrapped instead of flagged, hand rolled. It's made through a machine versus a hand rolled, which is most other shafts out there. Is why they can't repeat it. If you're doing it by hand and you're changing and putting all these different flags to get your EI curve or your stiffness profile, then how do you repeat that? When some of those flags don't go all the way around the shaft, or some of them go around a bunch of times and don't always finish in the same spot, then you get spines in the shafts, and the TPT wraps it, and it's one start, one stop, and then we sand the profile. So it's more like a milled shaft than it would be for the people out there, than it would be something that's made through a flagging process. And so the consistency of it's through the roof. We can control it at 1 CPM plus or minus all the way up and down the shaft. So that's the frequency of the shaft. So anywhere on that shaft, you give me 20 of them, they're all going to feel the same.
It's crazy.
And the player, and we there's nobody's ever not said that feels just like the other. So when you get fit with the TPT shaft, something happens to it. The airline just broke one the other day, and I replaced it. And the guy called me and said, I didn't even know the difference. So tour players, sometimes they want to try a new driver head. It doesn't always work out that their same shaft will work in a different driver head. If it's a different style of brand, or they come out with a new one. So sometimes we have to refit it to get the right shaft and performance for that particular head. But once it's there, it's there. And if I've got one senior tour player that we have 2 different brands, his backup, because both of them work, but they both have 2 different shafts, but they both perform exactly the same. So it's quite a journey that way once you start to understand it. And it's very different than your normal shafts. And then we've moved into fairway woods now, where we've been able to make a shaft specifically for a fairway wood. And then when you hit it, you're starting to feel like, well, that feels just like my driver. And that feel connection is really something that's been hard to do over the years. And now we've been able to do it. It's not necessarily going to be the same number, like 14 high and 14 high or F14 high. But you will be able to find a shaft that then performs and feels like your driver. And now I'm doing that with hybrids as we speak. And I have hybrids now out on the tour already that they love. So that's kind of
awesome.
how it all works out.
It's amazing that what you guys are doing, because there's no one really doing that, you know?
No, I don't think anybody can. You know, and I know one engineer that was there looked at it and goes, oh man, I could never have figured this out. So they've got something special. It works great for what I do, you know, to be able to know that somebody comes in here and I fit them in a club. And when they get their club, and actually usually I just make it for them, they walk out the door with it and they test the one I made versus the one they were fit with. And they go, okay, that's good. Sometimes the only differences would be if we're using universal tips in the fitting. And then, you know, sometimes the tips are a little different. We have to make the adjustment to the head or something for the tip, but we usually have no problem.
Now, if somebody wants to get fitted for a TPT shaft, though, they have to go to a TPT fitter, right? Like it's not, you can't just go buy them online and put them in yourself, right? Like,
no.
It's not.
It has to be through a fitted. Yeah. Exactly. You have to come to a fitter. You know, that's part of their deal. Cause I found out early on, and if you look at a TPT shaft, you'll notice that they have no flex. They have no information on it other than the label. It says 14 high or 15 low or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't want the players to be restricted to what they thought they knew. And so I asked them right away, let's not put that on there, because some players might play a stiffer one and some players might play a much more flexible shaft. Because I'm still in the camp of, I would want a player to have a flexible shaft with a low torque. And I found out early on the reason why most players wouldn't play a more flexible shaft is because the torque was too high when they made it. And so that if that's what they were feeling, players, this is tour players we're talking about, they would feel torque when they would say looseness, and they would relate that to the flex of the shaft when they were actually just feeling the torque. It was almost 100%. I think there was one that caught on that knew right away that that's the torque and that's the bend. But the rest of them all would think that, well, this shaft's too loose, you know, is what they would usually say, or too whippy or something like that. And then I would give them something with lower torque that was actually more flexible and say, oh yeah, that one's different. And so they were feeling different things. And so when they come in to be fit and they say, well, I always play this weight, this flex, this idea, that's too confining because you can't push them out of their box and really find something better. And so that's kind of the philosophy that we took, is that you're not going to know. And I still this day, I won't tell you what I'm giving you until after. Then I'll tell you everything you want to know. But I want you to experience it. I want you to give me feedback. I like this. I don't like that. This feels like this. And I'll learn their language pretty quick and then give them what they want to feel and have it perform properly.
Amazing. So like really when they get fitted, they don't know what they're getting until the end, right? Like
I don't tell them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good. People are learning more about the shafts. They're getting a little smarter about it, you know, because they investigate it. But no, that's what I want. I want you to have the shaft that's best performance for you, not necessarily what you're been told that's best for you, or that you've just always thought because you read that this shaft does this and so that fits me. That's usually what I hear. Is can't you just send me? I've always been an XYZ, this and that. Just send me one that's like
that's
that.
Like the normal marketing for shafts, though, right? It's like, oh, this shaft does X, and it's like, well, it might do that for somebody, but maybe not for somebody else, right? Like,
yeah, and I've found it very rare that what a player, any player, tour player or not, what they tell me they're fit in or should have is what they end up with. It's usually not. So.
You really slow it down, though. It's like, you know, a lot of people don't have that. They just half-ass it, or they think they think they know what they're talking about, and they don't. And then they end up not being happy with what they got, right? And then they throw it on that.
Yeah, and then they go on to the next shaft.
Yeah, the next shaft. Another $400.
I want people to be. I want them to play the shaft for a long time. You know, now obviously people swing changes, so when we catch that, we'll change out the shaft. But I want people to be able to play and have a club and use it and enjoy it. And then when they get another one, they can do the same thing. And some players just want the newest, latest stuff, and then we just refit it. And that happens a lot on the tour because obviously the companies want them to play the newest driver when it comes out. And then that just starts the process over.
That's cool. Like it just, I don't know, you got to do something special. And that's why that's one of the reasons why I wanted you guys on the show, because I feel like more people need to know about TPT because it's like slowly gaining that momentum from behind. But, you know, what you guys are doing is just different, right? And special, and it's working. Not just
and it's working.
And it's not selling a dream, you know, to somebody saying, oh yeah, it's like, I don't know. I just think it's cool what you guys are doing. And your shafts are amazing. Like they're...
Yeah, and they feel different. You've hit them.
Yeah,
they don't
super
feel
high quality.
Like
it's not like, they're not getting... It's like going to a restaurant or going to Burger King, right? It's like you're going, like if you're going to a fancy restaurant, you know what you get. And that's what you're going to.
Yeah, and then as soon as people hit it for the first time, they go, wow, that felt different. The Corn Ferry player 2 weeks ago was in here, and he came in. He goes, "Hey, my friend just told me to come, and I'm hitting the ball really straight, and I really like my driver, but I'm just doing this because my friend. And hey, if something's out there a little bit better." I said, "That's fine." I said, "That's great. We'll just see." And it was actually the first shaft I pulled out for him, and his father is actually his coach, and his caddy standing there behind him, and he watched the first 5 shots. He goes, "That's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in golf."
The dad or the coach?
The dad. No, the dad, and he's his coach too. And also his caddy out there on the Corn Ferry. And I just sat there and I'm like, yeah, I see that pretty normally. All of a sudden he was just hitting it. I mean, it wasn't like he was hitting his driver bad, his shaft bad, but when I put that shaft in there, his dispersion just got stupid straight. And then he goes out there and it just went right in the bag the very next day. And actually there was 2 players in here when they came in, and that's when I made the statement, well, I don't know if I'm going to get, if I get used to it, I'll probably put it in there. And I'm like, you're standing there and you watch that. It's clearly better. If you just hit one more fairway a day, what are you going to do? So it was a lot more than that.
It's the difference between winning and not winning. I mean,
right. Honestly, you're going to be standing out there with this other shaft, and you're going to want the other one. You're already used to it because it was better. And that's pretty funny too. And then actually he ended up playing in front of the player that I was out there with. And so I would get ahead, and I thought, oh, this is a perfect time. He doesn't know I'm standing here. I'm going to video him on this hole. So I was standing behind him and I video him hitting it driver. I mean, it was a, for him, a very poor swing. It was a poor swing. I never even sent him I was going to send him the video. I was like, playing the TPT shaft, kind of funny. And he made this terrible swing, and he tried to save it at the end. And I mean, it doesn't look like his normal swing that I just watched several times the day before. And I saw that video, and then the ball just goes ripping straight down the right side of the fairway. It didn't even move. I was going, that's TPT, because it was a total save. He was, and I know what he was thinking because he'd said it in the bay the day before too, when he had missed one. He goes, wow, I thought that would go way off the tracks, and it just went down the fairway. And that happened right there. So at some point I'll probably show him the video, but I don't want to, maybe I'll show it to his dad or something. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. His dad would be like, yeah, thank God we did that.
Yeah. That was a pretty bad swing, and he got away with it. It was cool. So I kind of got that in the archives. I won't bring that out, but because he probably wouldn't want to see that swing. So.
I almost feel like TPT is like the silver bullet that nobody knows it's like there. You know what I mean? Like a lot of players know on the tour slowly and it's happening. But I think like the everyday player is like, if they just knew about it, like you guys would be blowing up. Like you'd be dominating right now, because essentially you're solving the problem of what everybody really wants.
Certainly solved a big one for me. And that was, they definitely solved the one that, number one, you what you get fit with, you'll play with. And number two,
forever.
If something happens, you can have it back. You don't lose that feel, so you won't, like forever. I mean, golfers, once you get a club that works, you sleep with it, right? It's like that. You got to take care of it, because something happens to it, it's never going to be the same. Well, that doesn't have to happen anymore.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really happy you're on the show today. And if you guys need to check out TPT Shafts if you haven't yet. Also check out Jon Sinclair. Just Google him. You'll see what he can do. If you're in the Texas area too, right? And he has time in his schedule, he might be able to do a training with you. But I mean, he knows his stuff, like seriously. And that TPT.
Yeah, make sure I'm a month or two out at this moment, so we got to make sure that we. If you want to come, just make sure and let me know way in advance.
Yeah, way in advance, because he books very quickly. But thank you for being on the show today, and I really appreciate working with you guys at TPT and working with you especially. And yeah, thank you for being on the show.
All right, thank you, and then come see me, and we'll get that fairway wood fixed up.
Sure, sounds good to me. All right, you take care.
All right, have a great day.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
You're gonna beat me at golf?
Stay connected on and off the show by visiting golfersauthority.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Golf is always more fun when you win.
Stay out of the beach and see you on the green.